everyone, welcome to Easy Science. Today I'll be guiding you through Cambridge Lower Secondary Checkpoint Science Paper 2. So, most students lose marks on questions not because they do not know the answer, but simply because of their approach. So, let me show you exactly how to answer questions like an examiner wants. Now, this question 1A, it's about a small mammal called a shrew, right? Each shrew has a different fur color. Fur color is controlled by genes. Write down the name of the chemical that makes up genes. Now, first of all, it's important to take a look at how many marks this question has. It's just 1 mark. So when you see a 1 mark question like this, don't overthink. They are testing basic recall. Just one keyword is enough. So the correct answer for this question is simply DNA. Do not write long explanations, just the keyword DNA is enough for 1 mark. Part B. Eagles feed on shrews. Scientists sample the population of the shrews living on ground that is dark in color. The diagram shows the population of shrews over 2 years. The population of shrews for 3 is not shown. An eagle feeds on the shrews during years 2 and 3. Now, this part is simply showing us how the population changes over time. This is a data plus interpretation question. You must first of all look carefully at the diagram, compare what you see across different years, and explain using key science vocabulary. Now, if you look at year 1, there are more light colored shrews than the dark ones. Now, if you look at year 2, you will see that there are fewer light colored shrews compared to year 1. So eagles are feeding on them. The dark brown color is also playing a role. So ask yourself, which shrews are easier for the eagle to see? The light-colored shrews are more easier for the eagle to see, so they are eaten more by eagles, while the dark ones are better camouflaged, so more of them can survive. Okay, so it is important that you understand natural selection. So light-colored shrews are easily seen by eagles. The dark-colored shrews are camouflaged, so they survive and reproduce. So to get your full marks, you should understand camouflage, survive, reproduce, and natural selection. Let's take a look at the question. The total population size of these shrews is the same during all 3 years. Predict the numbers of white shrews and gray shrews in 3 years. Write your prediction in the diagram. So if we look here, year 1 had 4, year 2 had 3, so 1 had been eaten. So over here you can predict that we have maybe 2 more have been eaten. So we say that in year 3 we can have one left, right? And if you notice on the diagram, you can see 1 or 2. Now, if you notice here, you realize that year 1 we had 1, year 2 it's doubled. So we are expecting the number to double also in year 3. So we would say 4. 4, right? Let's move to the next question. Describe how natural selection explains the changes in the numbers of white and gray shrews. Now, let's look at this question. It's asking us to describe how natural selection causes changes in the numbers of white and gray shrews. So the most important concepts here now, to get all 3 marks, we need to talk about variation, survival advantage, reproduction, and passing on genes. Let's build our answers step by step. So first is to acknowledge that there is variation in the shrew population. Right? The white shrew are more visible on the black background, while the gray are better camouflage. So it is easier for eagles to eat them. The gray survive and reproduce to pass on genes. So this will fetch you all 3 points. Now, the next question says the scientists had to trap and release the shrews to get their results. Write down 2 safety precautions that the scientists took when trapping and releasing the shrews. This question is about practical work. Now, it also here 2 marks, very important to check. For 2 marks, we just need 2 clear precautions. Keep them simple and realistic. So I would expect you to write something like, wear gloves to protect both scientists and animals, right? And the animals. And you could also say the second one, check traps regularly so animals are not left for too long. Additional answers will include stuff like handle the shrews carefully to avoid injuring them, release the shrews back into their natural habitat as quickly as possible. Let's move on to question 2. Look at the diagram showing part of the periodic table. The electronic structure of lithium is 2,1. Write down the electronic structure of chlorine. Here we've got chlorine. Now, it is important for you to recall that the position of an element on the periodic table tells you its atomic number, which in turn tells you the number of protons and the number of electrons present in the element. So let's count from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So chlorine has atomic number 17, which means it has 17 electrons altogether. Now, remember that the first shell usually has maximum of 2 electrons, the second shell a maximum of 8, and the third shell a maximum of 8 electrons. So out of the 17 electrons, 2 electrons fill the first shell, 8 electrons fill the second shell, and 7 electrons fill the third shell. So this is the electron configuration of chlorine. Always fill the shells in order, 2, 8, and then the rest. Okay. Next question says, write down the symbol for the atom which has 12 protons in its nucleus. This question gives us the number of protons. Remember, the number of protons is the same or equal to the atomic number. Now let's find the element with atomic number 12 in the periodic table. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The answer is magnesium. So simply write down the symbol. So we need to write the symbol and not the name of the element. So we write here, remember, it is uppercase M, uppercase M, lowercase g. Very important. If the question demands that you write the symbol, please write the symbol and not the name. Remember that for every element that has 2 letters as its symbol, the first letter is uppercase, second letter is lowercase. The next question is about noble gases. Neon is in group 8 of the periodic table. Neon is an unreactive gas at room temperature. Argon is also in group 8. Suggest one property of argon. When you see elements in the same group of the periodic table, always recall that they have similar properties. Group 8 elements are called noble gases and they are all very unreactive. So, if neon is unreactive, that implies that argon is also unreactive. So 1 mark here. I'm sorry. Simply say argon is unreactive. Okay, so let's proceed to the next question. Water moves through a plant. The table shows information about the pathway of water into and out of a plant. Number 1 is the part where water enters the plant. Number 5 is the part where water lost from the plant. Complete the table by writing the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to show the pathway of water into and out of a plant. One has been done for you. So part of a plant, order of pathway. The 5th is the leaf. So we need to complete 1, 2, 3, and 4. Think about the journey water takes. It enters through the roots, moves into root xylem, travels up the stem xylem, goes into the leaf, and finally leaves through the leaf. So since we already know number 5, let's fill it. So here we are going to have root hair cell as 1, then the root xylem as 2, the stem xylem 3, and the leaf xylem 4. Always follow the flow from soil to root to stem to leaf and out of the leaf. Question B. Plants lose water from the surface of their leaves. Write down the name of this process. Again, always important to look at the mark allocation. Which is 1 mark here. This is a key biological question. Water loss from leaves is called, so we simply write the process without explaining. So transpiration. 1 mark. That is enough. Then part C says a desert plant grows well due to its very waxy leaves. High carbon dioxide levels reduce wax production in these plants. Cars produce carbon dioxide. Suggest what happens to the population of these desert plants growing near a new road. So we approach this question looking at more cars implies more carbon dioxide. More carbon dioxide implies less wax on leaves. Less wax means more water loss for the desert plant. And more water loss for a desert plant means the plant is going to struggle to survive. So the population of desert plants will decrease. 1 mark, so we just have to write one single sentence is enough. Right? So we say the population of the desert plants will decrease. If you want, you could explain further by saying they lose more water and cannot survive in dry conditions. So let's take a look at the next question. This question is about waveforms. Look at the diagram of the waveform of a sound. Which letter shows the amplitude of sound waves? Circle the correct answer. So we are told that sound A interacts with sound B, right? So first, it's important to understand the idea. What is happening here? We can see the waves. So before we move down to B, let's first of all identify the amplitude of this wave. What is amplitude? Now we have this line which is referred to as the equilibrium or the point of rest. So the maximum distance from the equilibrium to the highest point on the wave, or you can also check on this side, is the amplitude. So here at W, you can see that this is moving from rest down here. So this cannot be considered as amplitude, right? Now, if you look here, this distance is just from one wave to another, so it can also not be considered as amplitude. So Y cancelled, X cancelled, Z. Now, the distance from here to the maximum displacement, distance from here to maximum displacement is the amplitude. So our correct answer is Z. The waveform for the sound waves shows several waves. How many complete waves are there in 8 seconds of the waveform? Now, how do you count a complete wave? One point of the wave to a similar point on the next wave, right? Which will be here, and here, and here, and here. So this is one wave, 2 waves, 1 wave, 2 waves, 3 waves, 4 waves. So correct answer is 4. Next question. The diagram shows how sound A interacts with sound B to make sound C. Waveform of a sound wave. So these 2 waves are interacting, right? What's happening here is called superposition. Superposition. Because you realize that the 2 waves A and B are interacting. That means the waves add together. They add together. If both waves are above the center line, they add to make a bigger wave. So they add to make a bigger wave, which is called constructive interference. If one is above and the other is below, they partly cancel out each other. So they partly cancel out each other, and this is called destructive interference. So at each time we compare the position of wave A and the position of wave B. Okay, describe how the waveform of sound A and waveform of sound B interact at time 1 second. Let's go back to the diagram. So this is 0 time, 0 time. So we have 1 second here. Wave A is above the center line, and wave B is also above the center line, right? So both waves are in the same direction. That means they add together, say. So at 1 second, both waves are positive, so they combine to produce a larger amplitude. This is called constructive interference. So describe how they are together to form larger amplitude. All right, so this is constructive interference. Now look at the 3 seconds. At 3 seconds, here we've got 2. So here 0, 1, 2, 3. 3 seconds. Wave A is above center line, wave B is below center line. So they are in opposite directions. That means they cancel each other out. Okay, so here at 3 seconds, one wave is positive and the other is negative, so they partially cancel out. So they cancel out. All right, let's move on to the next question. Look at the diagram of the carbon cycle. Now let's analyze this diagram first. If you look here, carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and we have processes that add carbon dioxide into the atmosphere and processes that take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. Write down the name of process A. So this is process A. We have an animal releasing carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So this process, we simply write one word, which is respiration, because we have just one mark. Now write down the name of process B. Here we have process B, and we see carbon dioxide going into the tree and sunlight going into the tree. And we know that the process that requires carbon dioxide and sunlight in plants to make food is called photosynthesis. So since it's one mark, we simply write photosynthesis. No explanation needed. Write down one similarity between combustion and decomposition. Let's take a look at combustion. The burning down of fuels to release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And decomposition, the breaking down of dead plants and animals, also releases carbon dioxide into the environment. So they both release CO2 into the atmosphere. Okay, next question. Scientists believe that too much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere causes climate change. Describe 2 possible effects of climate change. This question requires you to, excuse me, where are we? Okay, this question requires you to put in 2 answers. So there are so many effects of climate change. When we have overheating, we understand that glaciers will melt, and this will lead to rising sea levels, right? So this is one of the effects. So as global temperatures increase, ice caps and glaciers will melt and seawater will expand, and this leading to what? To flooding. And you know how dangerous flooding can be. Another effect of climate change would be global warming, right? Global warming, which the earth is currently fighting against at the moment. You will experience extreme weathers. Climate change will lead to intense storms, heat waves, droughts, damaging homes and damaging the ecosystem. So let's move on to question number 6. Look at the data about some group 1 elements. We've got lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, melting point, and atomic radius. Describe the trend in atomic radius as you go down the group. Let's take a look at atomic radius. So here, we have atomic radius, right? First, look at the values for atomic radius. Lithium is 145, sodium is 180, potassium is 220, rubidium is 235. So as we go down this group, the numbers are increasing. So 1 mark, the atomic radius increases as you go down the group. The atomic radius increases as you go down the group. Simple, no further explanation. Part B says predict the melting point of rubidium. Now look at the melting points. Lithium is 181, sodium is 98, potassium is 64. We need to predict for rubidium, right? The melting point is decreasing, clearly decreasing down the group. So rubidium should be lower than 64. A sensible estimate is about 40. Because the melting point decreases down the group. So rubidium will have a melting point lower than 64 degrees Celsius. So approximately 40. Sodium reacts with chlorine to make an ionic solid called sodium chloride. Sodium chloride has a structure. Name this type of structure. We are told sodium reacts with chlorine to form sodium chloride, which has a high melting point, right? High melting points in ionic compounds mean there are strong electrostatic forces between ions. This tells us the structure is a giant ionic lattice. So it's a giant ionic lattice. 1 mark. Write down the names of these electrical. Okay, we are going to continue in part 2. So please do like, subscribe, and click on the next video to watch part 2. Thank you very much for staying tuned. And I hope you have learned so much on this, and you will be going into the checkpoint exams with more confidence. See you in the next video.